Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Vanessa and I am an indie author from Toronto, Canada, and I write under the name of A.N. Sage. I publish mostly fantasy, sci-fi, and all things paranormal and magic. And today we are going to talk about some of my tips for a successful book launch. So stick around to find out how to launch your book in the best way. Hi everyone and welcome to another video. I am really excited to do this one because we are going to be talking about launching your book in the best way possible. I actually personally have a launch coming up next week for the fifth book in my Shadowhurst series. And I'm implementing all these strategies, and I've been doing this for quite a while. And I'm just picking out some of the things that work best for me that I think would help you as well if you're launching either your first book or your next in the series, or if you're just looking for a few more tips on how to launch with less stress and more success. So just to roll right into it, the first tip that we're going to talk about is planning. To have a successful book launch, you really need to plan it out. Now, if you publish fairly quickly, like me, I publish a book a month right now. That will slow down a little bit in the new year because of other projects I'm taking on. But at the moment, I'm standing at a book a month. So it doesn't leave me too much time to plan ahead. But I do know that most of my launches are fairly similar in the way that they're structured. So I can plan 2 months to a month in advance for every launch. And that gives me enough time to get everything together to have a proper launch with like a big bang. You can, of course, start planning earlier on. It depends on when you're publishing, what your schedule is for publishing, what type of launch you want to have, what type of promotions you want to run, etc. So if you are running promotions, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you might want to start planning a little bit early because they do stack up and people book them and you might not get the date that you want. That actually happened to me a couple of times where I was running a little bit behind schedule and I kept putting it off. And by the time I was ready to book some of my promo sites, they were booked up for the days I needed them for. So I couldn't use them. I had to scramble, find other ones, and it wasn't quite as successful because I already know what works for me and which promo sites respond best to the type of series I'm currently writing. So for planning, what I do usually is I plan out when my social media is going to go up for teases, blurb teases, cover teases, then reveals, title reveals, what my newsletters are going to look like for those few months before leading up to it, because you always want to be kind of putting in breadcrumbs in there to keep people interested and grow the hype a little bit. I work out what I'm going to be doing the week before, 2 weeks before, the day before. So pretty much planning out in a very detailed manner all of my to-dos and everything that needs to get done. Like for the actual week of the launch, I will plan out every single Instagram story post, any kind of YouTube thing I'm doing. If I'm putting something on my website every day, every single post will be planned out so I know exactly what to do and I don't forget it, to kind of keep that hype going. And the same goes for the week before. Those are the two main big weeks that you'll be posting very, very often. You might feel like it could get a little bit like annoying and nobody wants to feel like they're trying to shove their books down people's throats, but I'm proud of the books I've written. I'm proud of everything I've achieved. And so if I have a launch, I'm excited to share that. And hopefully my followers and readers and viewers enjoy seeing that and that they're just as proud of me for getting this book out there and they're excited to see more about it. So don't feel like you're like a door-to-door like knife salesman and it can cut through a book, it can cut through a tin can. Like that's not what this is. You did something amazing. You wrote a book and you should be proud to shout it from the rooftops. And on the week of your launch, you should be shouting it from every freaking rooftop available because it's a huge deal. So plan for that shouting. Go back, backtrack, figure out what you can do ahead of time to ease the day of the launch because it's going to get crazy. You're going to be checking sales, you're going to be responding to emails, you're going to be following up with reviewers. It's going to be hectic. So you want to space out what you have to do ahead of time so everything's done, and when it's time to launch, it's an easier ride for you. So that's my number one tip for sure, is plan everything out. It will save you so much trouble later. My next tip is budgets. Budgets are super important. Most people don't think about this because they just kind of like throw money wherever they want, especially if it's like your first book and you want to try everything. But figure out what you're willing to part with as far as financials go. I'm at a place now where I do this full time, and so I don't really spend any money that the books have not made. When I was first starting out, I was putting in a lot of my own cash flow into it to get it going, but now I don't do that anymore, and everything pays for itself. That said, I don't spend advertising money that I don't necessarily have. So let's say if I only made a certain, like, this is not a real number by any means, but let's say book one made $100 the month before. I'm not going to be spending $200 now to launch book two. It just doesn't make sense. I'll probably spend 50 or so out of that 100. That was my clean profit. And so you want to really know what you can part with, what you're willing to put up. And that might mean that during this planning process that you did already, that you cut some stuff out. Maybe you don't run as many promotions. Maybe you work on some free marketing. Maybe you work on word of mouth marketing. Maybe you have books, paperbacks that you need to get rid of. And so the only cost that you're willing to part with is actually sending those out to people, to bloggers, to Instagrammers, YouTubers, etc. Maybe that's how you plan it out. So just first of all, first you need to do is you figure out your budget and then see how much of that budget you can cram in, how much you can do with the amount that you have. And you always want to work smarter, not harder with your money. That's a very key factor, because at the end of the day, if you're indie publishing, you're basically bootstrapping a business, and bootstrapping is the key word here, because you don't want to spend your own money on this, then it wouldn't be a business. Maybe at the beginning you do, but I remember when I opened my first brick and mortar store, and I didn't account for how much money it would take to run this thing. So we had enough money to put the place together, build it, everything that needs to get built, some advertising costs, etc., and like a few months of rent after that. But what I didn't know, because I was young and I didn't think of it, is that it takes about 3 years for you to start making profit on any kind of brick and mortar business. At least it did back then in Toronto. And I didn't account for that. I didn't have 3 years of rent saved up. I had 3 months barely scraping by. And so, of course, that business did not succeed. Now, it's a sad story. It was much sadder at the time, but it was a good lesson learned. And so since then, when I've taken on new businesses, new ventures, new projects, I always think of that 3-year mark. I always think, how long will it take for me to start breaking even and then making a profit? And from then, I know what my budgeting is. And I do that with books as well. It might not be in the 3-year scheme or such a long-term plan, but I think of when I start writing a series and I'm thinking of throwing money at promotions, I always think, what am I charging per book? What is my read through? What is my sell through? And from that, I can calculate exactly how much I'm willing to put into promotions to keep it going. So yeah, that's tip number 2, budgets. And then my next tip would be to most definitely start building your ARC team. If you don't have an advanced reader copy team already, you should definitely start looking into it. Reviews are everything, especially if you're like on Kindle Unlimited or Amazon, or anywhere really. Reviews are very important. It's like word of mouth, but multiplied by like 1,000. And so you want to have some kind of team behind you that's helping you move things along and get those reviews on time. And if you don't have one now, please look into actually getting this, because it's very important. Usually around like 100 to 200 people on a team is a good way to get it going. When you're first starting out, I started with 10 people on my team, and that was good enough. I got, out of those 10 people, 6 people left reviews, and that was amazing. That's 6 people that went out of their way to say something about the book of mine that they read. And the way this works basically is you give away copies of your book for free, and ask people for their honest opinion to leave a review. They don't have to do this. There's no pressure on this. The last thing you want to do is force somebody to start leaving you reviews, because that's like a negative outlook you don't want to have. But if they have anything to say, suggestions, if they positive, negative, everything, you can't influence what they're going to say. But those reviews will make a huge difference on launch day, because you give them a book ahead of time, and then on launch day your book launches and you already have reviews alongside it. Now on Amazon, people can't, if you're an indie publisher on Amazon, people can't leave reviews until that day of the publication. So keep in mind that it might take like a day or 2 or 3 for some of those reviews to trickle in, but they will get there. And since you're promoting the entire week of that launch, you'll have more of like a snowball effect of the reviews coming in. You can promote the reviews more, work that into your launch plan where you start showing some of the reviews as they come in on your social media, and it can be a really effective tool. My next tip is to have all your launch, pre-launch images and videos ready ahead of time, way ahead of time if you can. Think of it like your book covers, right? I have all my launch and pre-launch images and videos and promotional trailers and things like that made as soon as I have my cover done. So once that cover is done, I always have all of my images lined up, both for the pre-launch session, which it would be like a 1 week, 3 days left kind of thing, to build the hype, and then for the actual day of the launch. Now, these are also very helpful because sometimes, let's say Amazon with paperbacks takes a very long time to ship them to you right now. So you want to have some kind of like images that show your book, but you don't have the physical book. You can do this with things like BookBrush. That's a really good one to use because they have like pre-made templates, and you just pop your book cover in and they'll create it so that it looks like it's your physical book and someone's reading it. You might have to tinker. I mean, I personally have to tinker with it because the proportions are off sometimes. So it might stretch out your image a little bit if you have like a Kindle cover. But you can tinker with that on like Photoshop if you have those skills, or just leave it as it. It's not a huge deal. I'm just like a crazy perfectionist. And I want everything like really perfect. So yeah, have those launch and pre-launch videos like and images ready well ahead of time, so that when it's time for your launch, all you're doing is posting them or pre-scheduling them, which is even better. My next tip for your launch of your book will be to think of your backlist if you have one. If you don't have a backlist, this won't be relevant to you, but I think it's very important for you to not just think of that book that you're promoting, but the entire backlist that you have in your library, especially if you're pushing a series. So if this is like book, like for me next week, Mirror of Secrets is book 5 in the Shadowhurst series. So while yes, I will be posting a lot about Mirror of Secrets, I'm also going to be posting a lot about Witch of Shadows, which is the first one in the entire series, because some people may have not read the entire series yet and you're posting about book 5. It gets confusing. So you want to get the readers that aren't just like your loyal fans already, but the readers that you haven't gotten yet, and you want to keep that interest. And the best way to do that is to start dropping your prices on the rest of your series prior to the release of the book that is coming out. I work this in a way where when I have a chance, because with KDP, you can only have a free book once every 3 months. So if I have a chance to do that, I will put the first book of the series for free. Then I'll put the like second and third book of the series for 99 cents. And then the one that's coming out would be on a promo price of $2.99 as opposed to the $4.99 or whatever it is. So you always want to have sales scattered across and kind of growing and building towards this book that's releasing. And that's a really good way to get not only more of your read through, but to get people that haven't read the books before to buy the rest of them, especially when it's a free book. What I've noticed is when I put the first book for free, that same day, I have a huge spike in sales on all the other books in the series as well, because they're on sale too. And so people see that as kind of like an incentive to buy the rest of it, because one's free. So I might as well buy these while they're on sale for $1. Why not, right? So it just makes sense. It's almost like impulse buying when you're like staying waiting for a cash register, back when we used to be allowed to go outside and stand and wait for cash registers. But it's that same kind of idea. And so this backlist brings me to my next point, which is to use promo sites. It took me a long time to get on board with this because, again, I didn't have the money to begin with. Now that the business is making, the books are making money, I have more money to play with. But promo sites play such a huge part in all of my launch strategies. They're so integral to me having a successful launch, and just getting the word out there about not just the book that's coming out, but all the other books that I have on my backlist. And again, with promo sites, you want to stack them the same way that you're spreading out your price points to grow. You want to do that with your promo sites, except in the opposite funnel direction. So you want to hit hard on your first day. And I'll link a bunch that I work with in the description. And these are the ones that I find work the best for me. I write in urban fantasy, witchy mystery type of thing. So if that's what you write, these will probably work well for you as well. And I will usually do one promo site, which is usually like a free booksy for the free book. And I'll promote that first free book on the first day. And then I'll do another one where I'll promote the next book coming out. So let's say next week I'll be promoting Mirror of Secrets, but I'll do something like either ENT or e-reader IQ, where you can promote the whole series. So I will really be promoting Mirror of Secrets, but I'll also pay extra to have all these other books that are in the series promoted as well. And those will be my two promotions for the day of launch. You can add another one on top of it. I usually just do those two, especially if there's a free book, because that free book will drive people to buy and read and download like nothing else. Then the next day, you want to be promoting another book in the series. And then the next day, another one. And so you keep doing that and stacking it. And you're starting with a bang and then kind of trickling it out as it goes, because the interest will come out naturally dispersed. And so there's no point to like throw money at like a garbage can fire at the end of the week when like all of the hype is done, right? But that doesn't mean that the hype will finish, because what you'll see is you'll see a big spike on that first launch week. Sorry, I have like hair everywhere. You'll see a big spike on the launch week, and your books will start to drop, but at some point they'll level out and they'll continue on this like straight level, because now you've upped them and you've gotten your ranks up and your sales up to a point where whatever, if you're on Amazon, let's say Amazon now knows that, yes, there's interest in these books. And so they'll push your books more often, especially if you're promoting with them. So yeah, that's the last, I think, tip that I have. All of this involves planning. So it all goes back to that first tip, because you really have to plan to have a successful book launch. So I hope that was something you wanted to see and hear about. I'm really passionate about like proper book launches and doing different things to help indies get their books out there, because I think it's really important that we all support each other and that we help each other somehow, because what we do is important. Writing is important. We're creating literature that will last hopefully for a very, very long time. And I think that that's a really noble task, and I love that I get to do this for a living. I hope you do too. So yeah, I hope that helped you out somehow. And I guess we'll come back next week and we'll do another fun little video. I can't remember. I have planned out already what it's going to be, but I can't remember off the top of my head. So stay tuned. There'll be a surprise to all of us. So thank you for joining me. I hope that was helpful. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, tell people about the channel. And I will talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend and stay magical. Bye.